Assalamu alaikum. This is Adila Qayyum, the co-teacher for the course Communication Skills that comes under the course code ENGL 1119. The main objectives are to improve communicative efficiency, to avoid confusion in the message due to faulty pronunciation, grammar, or vocabulary, to be heard and understood effectively, and to use voice for the expression of emotions and feelings. Before we start, let me share something said by George Jessel. George Jessel was an American actor, Academy Award winning movie producer, and a multi talented entertainer comedian. He was known by Toastmaster General United States, that was his nickname. And it was for his frequent role as a master of ceremonies at political and entertainment gatherings. Once he said, "The human brain is a wonderful thing. It starts working the moment you are born and never stops until you stand up to speak in public." Said by George Jessel, and what a tongue twisting name. What is speaking? The act of conveying information or expressing one's feeling in speech. In other words, speaking is an act of making vocal sounds. We can say that speaking means to converse or expressing one's thoughts and feelings in spoken language. To speak often implies conveying information and ideas. Humans have been using speaking for centuries. In fact, its roots run deeper beyond written language. You may find this part interesting. About 1.75 million years ago, our human ancestors, the hominins, achieved a technological breakthrough. They began to craft stone hand axes in ways that required more planning and precision than had been used in earlier tool making processes. Around the same time, these prehistoric people began to talk. In other words, tool making skills and language skills evolved together. Our language, Elvezer, our technology has a long prehistory. Same way, researchers have long debated when humans started talking to each other. Estimates range widely from as late as 50,000 years ago to as early as beginning of human genus more than 2 million years ago. Words leave no records on archaeological record. It has a long journey from just speaking to modern language. Our human ancestors started grunting and hooting, and this gradually developed the language we use today to communicate. So, asking when our ancestors first began to talk is a challenging query. It's quite different from seeking the origin of bipedalism, where skeletal material may reveal key clues, or of the origin of technology or art, where artifacts may hold the answers. Speech organs don't fossilize, and it's challenging to link up artifacts with the earliest speech. Speaking skills are the skills that gives us the ability to communicate effectively. And speaking effectively is defined as speaking in such a way that your message is clearly heard and, if possible, acted upon. There are two main elements to speaking effectively: what you say and how would you say. These skills allow the speaker to convey his message in a passionate, thoughtful, and convincing manner. Speaking skills also help to assume that one won't be misunderstood by those who are listening. We discussed as above what you say and how would you say. What you say means your choice of words. The words you might use when chatting to a friend are likely to be quite different from those used in a formal presentation or interview. Similarly, the way you speak will also vary in different situations. However, there are also likely to be some common factors. For example, whether you naturally talk quietly or loudly, and how you use body language. Your speaking allows the listener to influence his or her decisions. Without speaking skills, the ability to progress in working world and in life itself would be nearly impossible. Looking at this picture, what I can see is there are two people who are trying to explain two different shapes, a triangle and a square. They might be explaining the colors as well, and the one who will be explaining with A good expression will make the other person understood what he is trying to say correctly. So this is the importance of speaking skills. Speaking skills help us to create a better understanding. It helps us to express oneself to others, help a person to grow socially and professionally. It helps to avoid conflicts. Used in assessment, and it allows us to form connections as well. What do you think looking at this slide? Is it looking effective? To me, it is looking dull and boring. Same way it goes for speaking. Effective speaking means being able to say what you want to say in such a way that it is heard and acted upon. Whether you are talking to a major conference about a new scientific discovery, to your children about their behavior, or your boss about a pay rise, you need to be able to speak effectively. This means considering every possible tool and aspect to ensure that nothing distracts or detracts from your message. There are three aspects of effective speaking: your words, your voice, your body language. While choosing your words, what you say, the words you choose matter. If in doubt about your meaning, your audience will come back to the words that you used and double check what you might have meant. It is therefore important to choose carefully, especially when you are saying something important. Things to consider are your audience. The words choose will be different if you are talking to 200 people at a conference, a trusted colleague, your boss, or your children. You need to think about your audience overall level of understanding of subject and also the type of language that you use. Your sentences should be shorter and easier because shorter sentences are easier to process and understand. Using shorter sentences also create urgency. Your words should be simple because simpler words are also easier to understand. If you cannot explain something in simple terms, you have probably not understood it yourself. This is particularly important if your audience are not all native speakers of the language. Your voice can reveal as much about your personal history as your appearance. The sound of a voice and the content of speech can provide clues to an individual's emotional state. For instance, if self-esteem is low, it may be reflected by uh, in your voice. A shy person may speak quietly, but someone who is confident in themselves will be more likely to have command of their voice and clarity of speech. It is worth taking time to improve your command over your voice, especially if you find it hard to speak in public. It can even help to boost your confidence. It is important to get used to the sound of your own voice. Most people are more relaxed in a private situation, particularly at home where there are no pressures to conform to any other social rules and expectations. This is not the case in public situations where there are also sorts of influences exerted upon the way people speak. The more you get used to the sound of your own voice functioning in a slightly more formal way, the easier it is when doing it for real. In conversational mode, individuals tend to speak in short phrases, a few at a time. Speaking or reading aloud helps you to become used to the more fluent sound of your own voice. When it comes to your breath, by using full lung capacity, the breath will support the voice and the voice will become richer, fuller, and stronger. Breathing deeply and rhythmically has a calming and therapeutic effect as it releases tension and promotes relaxation. People who are relaxed are more balanced, receptive, and confident. If we talk about the volume, this is not a question of treating the voice like the volume control on the TV remote. Some people have naturally soft voices and physically cannot be low. Additionally, if the voice is raised too much, the tonal quality is lost. Instead of raising the voice, it should be projected out. Support the voice with lots of breath. The further you want to project the voice out, the more breath you need. It also needs to come from the diaphragm, not the throat. To have good articulation and clarity, it is important to unclench the jaw, open the mouth, and give full benefit to each sound you make, paying particular attention to the ends of words. This will also help your audience as a certain amount of lip reading will be possible. To make speech effective and interesting, there are certain techniques and varieties, and they can be applied. However, it is important not to sound false or as if you are giving a performance. Words convey meaning, but the way they are said reflects feelings and emotion. Vocal variety can be achieved by variations in your pace, the volume, and the pitch of your sound, and definitely the pauses you give during your talk. Your body language is most important. This includes how you stand, your facial expression, the way you use your hands to emphasize your speech, and even whether and with whom you make eye contact. Perhaps the most important aspect of effective communication and effective speaking is congruence. For communication to be effective, your nonverbal speaking needs to reinforce your words. The two must say the same thing. Nonverbal speaking is much harder to disguise than verbal. If you see that someone's body language is giving a different message from their words, it pays to listen to. The art of communication and the art of speaking is not mastered by just knowing what to say and how to say it. A big factor is knowing when to say it. So often people sit back and say nothing when something really needs to be said. It could be an idea, suggestion, an observation, a criticism, but for some time and for some reason they don't want to speak up. And here we are going to mention occasions where we have to speak, like introduction. Whenever you come across some situation and you need to introduce yourself or you need to introduce someone else, you need to definitely give his or her name, and that is going to be the introduction of that person. Then when you present different things, when you want to inform people about different things, when you are into some regular gossip, when you are attending a commemorative, when you are going to attend a farewell, or whenever you are sitting in your family with your friends, you need to interact. And these all day-to-day interaction need speaking. It is entirely possible that your insightful observations and conclusions have surfaced in the minds of others. Others may share your thoughts and opinions but may be also unwilling to speak up. By speaking your mind, you encourage them to voice their opinion as well. If everyone holds back, the bus may silently head over a cliff. Fear of public speaking is not so much related to the quality of a speech as it is to how the speaker feels, thinks, or acts when faced with speaking in public. There are many reasons why people become afraid when having to speak in public, and some are given here. First and the foremost reason of this thing is lack of confidence. Fear of being laughed at is most common. Most of us are having this thing. Shyness differs from person to person. Fear of making mistake is especially for non-native speakers. Time pressure is for those people. It creates problem for specifically those people who want to speak a lot out of their hearts. And glossophobia. Glossophobia is a really cool and geeky name for the fear of public speaking. Appears when you are performing or expecting to perform an oral presentation or a speech in front of other people. Fear of public speaking is frequently but it is actually incorrectly cited as people's biggest fear. Fear of public speaking is often not people's biggest fear. There are many other things that people are really scared of. Nevertheless, fear of public speaking is very common. Approximately 25% of people report experiencing it. While some people experience a debilitating form of glossophobia, even a mild form can have devastating effects. Fear of public speaking can prevent you from taking risk to share your ideas, to speak about your work, and to present your solution to problems that affect many people. And as a result, it can affect how much you grow personally and professionally and how much impact you can have. At the same time, any negative public speaking experiences will make it less likely that you will speak in public in the future. Fear teaches you protect yourself from risky situations. Everyone feels some physiological reaction like pounding hearts and trembling hands. Do not associate these feelings with the sense that you will perform poorly or make a fool of yourself. Some nerves are good. The adrenaline rush that makes you sweat also makes you more alert and ready to give your best performance. Here are some tips to overcome speaking problems. First of all, concentrate on your ideas or organize your material in the most effective manner to attain your purpose. Create the framework for your speech, write down the topic, general purpose, specific purpose, central idea, and main points. Make sure to grab the audience attention in the first 30 seconds. Then it comes preparation. The best way to overcome anxiety is to prepare, and prepare some more. Take the time to go over your notes several times. Once you have become comfortable with the material, practice a lot. Videotape yourself or get a friend to critique your performance. Know your audience. Your speech is about them, not you. Before you begin to craft your message, consider who the message is intended for. Learn as much about your listeners as you can. This will help you determine your choice of words, level of information, organization pattern, and motivational statement. Get into conversation with people near you. Let your personality come through. You be yourself. Do not become a talking head. In any type of communication, you will establish better credibility if your personality shines through, and your audience will trust what you have to say if they can see you as a real person. Try to be fluent, be in the room at least an hour early in case of a formal presentation. If possible, try to triple check everything. Then breathe deeply, evenly, and slowly for a few minutes. And lastly, use your voice and hands effectively. Omit nervous gestures. Non-verbal communication carries most of the message. Good delivery does not call attention to itself, but instead conveys the speaker's ideas clearly and without distraction. Do you enjoy hearing a speech start with "Today I am going to talk to you about this and that"? Most people don't. Instead, use a startling statistic and interesting quotation. Conclude your speech with a summary and a strong statement that your audience is sure to remember. Good speaking is never perfect, and nobody expects you to be perfect. However, putting in the requisite time to prepare will help you deliver a better speech. You may not be able to shake your nerves entirely, but you can learn to minimize. There are generally three types of speaking. Face to face interaction, it's between two people or among more than two people. Semi formal, exchange of information, and informal, exchange of personal information with friends and family, and normal conversation. When it comes to being a public speaker, the types of speech to give depends on what you are trying to accomplish. The different types of public speaking are speaking to inform, speaking to persuade, motivate, or take action, speaking to entertain. Let's talk about speaking to inform. When the speaker is presenting interesting facts or lessons to the audience or explain how to go about doing something. This could be a teaching lecturing like what we are doing right now about the Civil War, or a student giving an oral report, or showing how to decorate a cake or set up a blog, a museum guide explaining the history of painting, or a doctor explaining a procedure. Second, the speaking to persuade, motivate, or take action. This is when the speaker will try influencing the audience in some way. The speaker might be trying to change your mind about something, to persuade you to change your opinion, to motivate to change a behavior, or to take action. Some examples are explaining the benefits of non-profit for the purpose of eliciting donations, trying to get people to change bad eating habits by explaining all the benefits of eating healthy, or attempting to convince people to vote against a candidate in an election campaign. And lastly, speaking to entertain. This type of speaking is often found at events like banquets, weddings, or dinners. The speaker is usually sharing a funny story or other anecdotal information. Some examples of this would be the best man speech at a wedding, or an after dinner speech given by a host of a party to thank guests for coming. They could also be planned as entertainment at an event. Topics are usually humorous and light and could serve a very specific purpose, like introducing a featured guest or giving. There are four basic components of speaking skills: fluency, vocabulary, grammar, and punctuation. Accuracy and fluency are two factors which can determine the success of a language student in the future. Accuracy is the ability to produce correct sentences using correct grammar and vocabulary. Accuracy is actually relative. A child is early primary isn't capable of the same level of accuracy as an adult. Teachers who concentrate on accuracy help their students to produce grammatically correct written and spoken language. Fluency is the ability to read, speak, or write easily, smoothly, and expressively. In other words, the speaker can read, understand, and respond in a language clearly and concisely while relating meaning and context. Actually, fluency generally increases as learners progress from beginning to advanced readers and writers. Language teachers who concentrate on fluency help their students to express themselves in fluent language. Vocabulary means the appropriate diction which is used in communication. Without having a sufficient vocabulary, one cannot speak effectively or express their ideas in both oral and written form. Having limited vocabulary is also a barrier that reduced a learner from learning a language. Language teachers therefore should possess considerable knowledge on how to manage an interesting classroom so that the learner can gain a great success in their vocabulary learning. Without grammar, very little can be conveyed. Without vocabulary, nothing could be conveyed. Grammar is needed for students to arrange a correct sentence in conversation. It is in line with explanation suggested by a researcher that students' ability to manipulate structure and to distinguish appropriate grammatical form in appropriate sentence. This utility of grammar is also to learn the correct way to gain expertise in a language in oral and written form. Pronunciation is the way for students to produce clearer language when they speak. It deals with the phonological process that refers to the components of a grammar made up of the elements and principles that determine how sounds vary and pattern in a language. There are two features of pronunciation: phonemes and suprasegmental features. A speaker who constantly mispronounces a range of phonemes can be extremely difficult for a speaker from another language community to. How to improve the components of speaking skills? Fluency, the first component. Just like improving your writing, listening, or any other skill, there are techniques you can use to improve your fluency in a targeted way. Here is the list that will help you to improve your fluency. Simply speak, speak, and speak. When you will speak, you will fight against the fear of speaking and you will learn how to speak. Reflect on your conversation, the way you converse with the other person, the way you converse with your family, the way you convey your ideas to the public. You have to give your own reflection onto that. Listen and read. These both are language skills. When you will listen carefully, you can speak better, and you will read nicely, absorbently, you will write better. Learn phrases rather than single words. Answer phone calls in the language you want to learn in. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, because when you make mistake you actually learn. A great vocabulary is just one essential tool while speaking, along with punctuation, grammar, and many others. Vocabulary can make your speech more powerful and more effective and help you say exactly what you mean. Here are a few ways that will help you improve your vocabulary. Learn new words every day. Keep a record, keep a journal, write down your new words in it, write the meaning, and create your own cues to keep those meaning in your mind and keep them learned. Do word puzzles, watch movies with subtitles, and look up the new words in dictionary and find the meaning of them. Grammar. Let's talk about grammar as a noun first of all. The structure and system of a language, or of languages in general, usually considered to consist of syntax and morphology. Grammar is a subject that stresses many people out, as it can be quite confusing and complicated. However, correct grammar is important for you while speaking. It's crucial to know some simple methods to improve your grammar skills. Here are 5 basic tips to try. First of all, the foundation: read. Then give your own reviews on the basics. Listen to others, get a grammar manual, and practice. Something more about grammar. Grammar is a system of a language. People sometimes describe grammar as a rules of a language, but in fact no language has rules. If we use the word rules, we suggest that somebody created the rules first and then spoken the language, and it did not happen actually, like a new game. But language did not start like that. Language started by people making sounds, as we have discussed in the beginning of this presentation, which evolved into words, phrases, and sentences later. No commonly spoken language is fixed. All languages change over time. What we call grammar is simply a reflection of a language at a particular time. Punctuation. Speakers with good English pronunciation are likely to be understood even if they make errors in other areas, whereas speakers with bad pronunciation will not be understood even if their grammar is perfect. Such learners may avoid speaking and experience social isolation, employment difficulties, and limited opportunities. Following list will help you improve your pronunciation. Learn to listen, because listening is another skill, and when you will learn to listen, you will get command on that skill. Notice how your mouth and lips move, and notice how the whole of your oral area work when you articulate word. Break words down in sounds. Practice with tongue twister. Remember, we started this presentation with a tongue twister, George Jessel. And what did he say? I hope you remember. One more quotation by him is, if you don't strike oil in 3 minutes, stop boring. And I hope you understood that. And I hope you learn how to fight against a racing heart or rattling knees and ruminative thoughts, and how to fight against the fear of speaking.